All right, so we're talking about here in this video, lesson 21. This is the mini project for the side scroller for code.org. So let's look at the directions here. This is the frog jump. It says this frog jumping game is an example of a side scroller. Side scrolling games have backgrounds that move across the screen from side to side. In this game, the player uses the up arrow to make the frog jump. The frog must avoid the mushrooms while trying to get the flies. Every fly scores 1 point, and hitting the mushroom makes the player health go down. When the player health hits 0, the game is over. Play the game a few times. Discuss with partner. If you have already learned all the skills you need to code this game, you'll be making your own side scroller in this mini project. And there's multiple steps to this, so this obviously is just the introduction. And if we look at this, so here you have your frog, okay, and what we want to avoid the mushroom, and then we catch the flies to get points. Okay, so there's a couple things going on here. One, we have our background, so we have like an ellipse here. Oh, let's see if we can. Wish we could just have it stop, but we have the frog, we have the mushroom, we have the fly. You really only need one fly. You're just going to have the fly keep moving across the screen at different locations, and I'll discuss that here a little bit. And then you got your background, so this right here, and then the background up, the ellipse up here. Okay, and these are actually probably could be ellipses as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to start coding a little bit of this. I'm just going to move to one of the areas and just start coding it. So we're going to go ahead and, so it says game setup, create the sprite, set the velocity for the obstacles and the target, things like that. Okay, so the first thing is we want to go ahead and create a mushroom. And we'll scroll this up here a little bit. All right, so we're going to do mushroom. Oops. And we'll go ahead and we kind of want it down in this area. So let's go ahead and do 450 by 325. Okay. And so if we run this, oops, got to set the animation for our mushroom. So let's go over here to animations. And we already have them preloaded in here. Okay, so that's helpful. So we're going to go ahead and do mushroom. And we're going to set that to the mushroom animation. Then we need to set its velocity. Actually, let's just go ahead and create all these sprites first. We can always drag them in here. We're going to do frog. And we'll do his 175, 325. Let's see where that shows up at. Oops. And got to set his animation. So we got frog. And we'll go ahead in here and do frog. And we don't have inside the draw loop. Oh, we do have draw sprites. Okay, so there's our frog and our animation. Oh, we haven't really placed him anywhere yet. So, all right, or our mushroom, sorry. We have him placed off the screen right now because that way when he moves across the screen, then our frog can jump over him. All right, and then we got to do the fly. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing, create the fly, and let's wait on that for just a quick second. We're going to go ahead and set the animation to the fly. There's our fly. Now, when the game ran previously, and I don't know if we can actually see it, it's not up there. It's going to go from this location, it might be up here and then down here. So that to me tells me we need a random number. And we're going to initially start this off the screen. So let's go ahead and start this at like 475. This obviously goes to 400 of the X, so it's going to be off here the screen, and then it will move across the screen. And we're going to give it a random number. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll give it between, 50s up here, 350s down here. We can do that. Now we don't have a moving or anything yet. We'll come back to that here in a second. We have our score already and we have our health. And we'll need to use that down below here in the if or in the loop. All right, actually, let's go ahead and get them moving. So let's go ahead and the mushroom is going to move this direction. So we're going to have to use a velocity x. And we'll make it -5. So if we run this, there's our mushroom. Looks great, doesn't it? But we haven't added a background in here yet, so you get that effect going across the screen. And then let's do the fly as well. So again, these are moving side to side. So we'll do the same thing. And let's change that and make that a little faster, just so they're not moving at the same. So let's do 7. And you can see they kind of have the same effect because we don't have a background yet. All right, so let's actually go ahead and make a background down here. And I believe the background was like a blue kind of thing. Let's see if they already have it preloaded in here. I don't think it's blue, but yeah, definitely not that. What if it's sky blue? There we go, that looks better. And see how the background changes. So now that's perfect. All right, so notice they all stop one time because we haven't done anything in here in the draw loop. So we're gonna go about doing that right now. All right, I'm not gonna draw the background stuff. Well, maybe I'll draw a little bit of it. Let's go ahead and we'll draw that circle up at the top. So we're gonna fill that white. Like the cloud. See what that looks like. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now we could affect that and change that a little. Just add another one, just see if we can kind of tinker with this a little bit. Adding multiples in here. Don't really like that. I'm just going to leave that one. Okay, and now we want to draw the ground, so we're going to fill in another color here. And they don't give you this one, but I believe I know what this is. I don't know if they talk about it up here or not. Let's see. Nope, don't see it anywhere. It might be in a previous part of this. I just jumped to an area. You're going to want to do this kind of step by step, where I'm just doing it all right here. So I think it's called burley wood. And we will make a couple of ellipses here. So these are along the ground. So, you know, if let's just try this a second and see what. So there's one, right? And then let's make another one. Oops. And this is just going to make this one. Another one's going to make it right here. Now notice we have the lines and we really don't want that, right? So we need to add no stroke in here, which is going to remove any of the lines around these, around this one and around this. There, that looks better. Yeah, that looks a lot like what's going on there. Okay, so now we have to work on our if our frog is touching the mushroom. So these are all the interactions. So this is if the player touches the obstacle, the health goes down and the obstacle turns. So let's go ahead and we'll place an if. And this is actually going to be an if else, because what we want it to do is we're eventually, it's going to move up and then down and things like that. So we're going to do an if else. and we want to do is touching. If the frog is touching, let's do the mushroom. If that happens, we want the mushroom to rotate differently. We want the frog to change a little bit here. So we're going to drag in this, and we want the rotation. And we'll do 30. And then this one's going to be 0. So if you notice, like with a lot of this, if I hit tab, I can just tab over and it goes to the blank line, just something a little extra. And yep, you can see that the rotation changed to the mushroom. And then otherwise, we just want the mushroom rotation to, because notice when it moves across here, it's going to touch this, and then it stays there. So we're going to change that rotation in the else right here and make it 0. So it changes, and then it goes back. All right. Very good. So now we need to do the fly. If the player is touching the target, score goes up and the target resets. So again, this happens to be a if, because the frog, nothing happens with the fly. Yet. All right, so now we have if the fly, if the frog is touching the fly, we want the flies, we want it to go back and move around, right? So we don't want anything to happen to the frog, but we do want the fly to want the frog to eat the fly basically, and then go to a new location. So let's go ahead and we're going to affect the flies X and Y. And these are actually going to be, because we wanted to randomly pick it, so we wanted to go over here and kind of go off screen, and then maybe one time it crosses, it goes along here, and then next time it goes along here. Kind of like what we did up here, right? Except now that the fly has been eaten by the frog, we want that to happen again. So we're going to go ahead and do a random number for both of these. So we have frog, we have the fly, and we want this to be off the screen. So its X location needs to be kind of something that's off screen. So like 420 to 450. Okay, and then we're going to do the fly again. And now, kind of like what we did up above here, very same idea, 50 to 350. Let's do the exact same thing. And then we need the score to change too, because we want to have points go up for our scoreboard. So we are going to, let's see here. I'm going to drag this in here. Let's move this down a little bit. And we're going to say score. And then we need to, now whenever encoding, you want a variable, in this case score, to increment or go up. You're going to take the previous value of whatever that score is and then have it go up by whatever value you want it to go up by. So we're going to use the math, and we're going to do score plus 1. So it takes the previous score number and adds 1 to it every time it touches that fly. Okay, so let's take a look and see what we got going on thus far. Oh, perfect. And it eats our fly. That's great. Okay, very good. That's looking really nice. All right, so now, so we have our frog. Let's work on our movement for our frog. So we want to have, so long as the frog is here, if we don't want the frog to go any lower, so we're going to use an if for this too on the Y location, because if that number is greater than this, well, think about when the frog jumps up, and then we're going to have it kind of move back down. If it goes too far, that's going to be a problem. And so what we want to do is we want to use we're going to use what we call a nested if. So the first if is going to be, we're going to check its location to make sure that it's greater than a certain number here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to compare. So we're going to use the greater than operator. And we're going to say, so long as that sprite's Y location, so this is the frog, so long as its Y location is greater than, let's do 325, we're going to be good with that. And then we're going to allow it to move. We're going to use a key entry, and we're going to put in an if else inside of this. And we're going to say, so long as we have the key went down and it's up, then we're going to have the velocity go up. Okay, because what we're really wanting it to do now is, okay, so it checks to see if it's in the right spot. Then we're going to press the key up and it's going to allow it to jump up. And we're going to have another if here in a second so that it doesn't go higher. And once that happens, then it's going to fall back down. So what we want to do is change its velocity. And we're going to have its velocity go here too. All right, so on these velocities, for the velocity y, well, let's go ahead and change this real quick. We're going to do frog, and let's make it like -7. And then we'll do the frog here, and this is just going to be 0 because what we want is if we run this, we move up. Oh, and my does not work. If it's greater than... Interesting. All right, well, let's add a little bit more here because frog.y, frog. Oh. Wrong thing. We don't need the dot. We don't need the dot y's. We need the velocities. Let's change these here. And then -7 and add this one in. And 0. So this is going to stop it, whereas this one, we'll have it go up. Interesting. All right, let's add a little bit more here. While it's greater, oh, if the y is greater than 325. Oh, maybe I have this too high. Let's try. There we go. Now notice it just keeps running. That's weird. I was just off by a little bit there. All right. Okay, so now when the key went down, or when we pressed up, it went up -7, so that's good, and we stopped the velocity if it's not being pressed, because that's what's keeping us here, right? So we haven't pressed it down. Okay, so now what happens if the player presses the up arrow and we start moving up? So now we got to do a few things here, and I guess actually that's kind of what's going on with this. All right, so what we want to do is we need to affect the y now that if it gets too high, because kind of got up here and it kept going. So this is kind of our like way to make gravity, if you will. So we're going to go ahead and add another if here. And we're going to say, I'm going to do another comparison, but this one's going to be less than, because what we're going to do is look at the y location right here. So we're going to go ahead and do .y. And we'll do 150. And if that happens, well, then we want the velocity to be kind of opposite of what we have here. So we're going to go ahead and drag this out. And originally I had -7, so let's make this 7. There we go. And if we want, you know, if that's a little bit too low, we can change this. We can make it like 100. Of course, then we're going to be up in the clouds. Yeah, I kind of tinker with that a little bit, but that's kind of the idea. And then the same thing if it's gone off the left side or the player, so this is actually down here. Okay, and then if the obstacle has gone off the left side of the screen, move it to the right hand side of the screen. So this happens to be with the mushroom. Same idea, drag an if. Okay, and we're gonna say, well, if the obstacle has gone off the left side of the screen, so this is gonna be a less than. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and drag a less than over here. And this is going to be for the mushroom's X because we're comparing left to right. So we're going to go ahead and drag this out. And then we want it to be off the screen. If you set this to 0, what's going to end up happening is, well, I'll just show you, is it's going to make it look like it disappears. Oh, not too bad. Oh, I didn't have it do anything. Let's go ahead and give it a new location. So let's go ahead and do this. Just to give you an example. And this has to be off the screen too. If we did like 400, we think, oh, that's off the screen. This is what's going to end up happening. So the mushroom gets over here, and it kind of shows up right here. And it kind of disappeared at the very end if you watch it real carefully. So we want that to be off the screen, you know. So we want to be like -20, let's say. And then, you know, this should be like 425, something like that. But that will allow it to then get off the screen and then show up over here, and it kind of makes it look, and maybe we want to do 450, something like that. Maybe that's a better thing to do. But that's the idea. All right, so if the target has gone off the left side of the screen, move it to the right-hand side of the screen, which is kind of what we did right there. All right, so now, so we can kind of keep our fly here, because now we really haven't done anything with the fly, and he's just kind of disappears on his one run through, which we don't want. So we're going to go ahead and mess with the fly here. Same idea, almost identical code to what you have here. It's just going to be the X, or the fly, instead of the mushroom. So let's go ahead and drag another if. And we'll drag the fly. Oops. I'm going to do the less than, because they're basically operating the same way. And let's just kind of do the same thing. -20. And then we can drag this here. Now, however, what we want to do is we want to make sure that the fly, kind of like what we've done up here with the random numbers, we want to take these two and we're going to reuse them, almost identical. So we're going to do fly.y, fly.x, and then we're going to go ahead and drag a random number into both of these. It would be a good idea to kind of write these down, but 420 to 450, so that's making sure that it shows up over here, and then 50 to 350. So again, kind of same idea. All right, so here's our fly. Jumps over there, very good. All right, that's looking very nice. See how the fly kind of moves around? Mushrooms tilting. We're almost there. This is very good. All right, so let's take a look at our scoreboard. And notice we have it after the draw sprites. And I'm kind of feeling like that my scoreboard might be in the wrong spot here. But we'll take a look. Oh, we have health. Okay, so we got black, text size 20, health. Okay, so that's right there. So now I need to do the score, and I'm going to do it basically the same exact way as this. It's just we want to move it over to this side. So, you know, that's go to text. Let's see what that looks like. There's our score, and you can see that we have text over here right now. But we're going to change that, because kind of like what we did with health here, we're just going to do score. Is it score or scoreboard? Going back up here. It's score. Okay, so these are those two variables that were created. So we got score, and then we just want these to be offset a little bit. So we definitely want it on the same Y, and we're gonna move this over to, like, let's do 80. See what that looks like. Ooh, that's pretty bad. All right, let's do like 110. Yeah, it's pretty good. Maybe move it over a little bit, but it works. All right, and then the last thing is, let's see, we got the health. So health is not moving down here. So where do I affect the health at? So if the frog is touching the mushroom and my health is not going up, let's go up here for a second. If frog is touching mushroom, I didn't do anything with the health here. So that's something I'm going to want to do. So we'll go ahead and drag this out. And then we want the health to go down. So we're going to use a math, kind of like what we did with score right here. But we're going to do this with health. And we're going to have it subtract from it. And then, just like we did before, I'm going to have it subtract 2 or 5 each time. Let's just see what happens there. So 95. Oh, look how quick it goes. Whew. Maybe that's not a good idea. Let's do 1. But you could change that and affect how complicated you want the game to be or how difficult you want the game to be. But there you go. All right, so I think that's about it. I think that's the game. Now you're going to want to make it your own, and a lot of these variables could be changed, change the location of the square or the score, things like that, the rotations and different things like that. So a lot of these numbers can be changed, but that's basically how you make that game. All right, hopefully that helps you. Good luck.